My parents they're from Poland originally, so I'm first generation Australian. We grew up, not much money in Bankstown, and but walking around my grandfather's garden, at 3 or 4 years of age, pulling cucumbers and tomatoes off the vine and plums off the tree, and getting eggs out of the chook house. I think that's where it started. And once you taste those flavours, it's really hard to go backwards from there. I think that's where essentially what we have here in my restaurant. It's just sort of a culmination of all those things that I grew up with. I would probably call it modern European. So, with the brand Eschalot, that lends itself to being sort of a French influence. We're not historically French. We use influence from French cuisine and French styles of cookery. But these days, people want something a little bit lighter. We like to use some Italian influences, Mediterranean influences, and for us, it's more about flavour than being too tricky. It's got to taste good. And we try and use as much as we can locally. And it's really important to us to try and obviously support local industry, but have the flavour and quality there. But fortunately, the customers and the critics, they enjoy what we do. So it's a great buzz. They know we're consistent and we're proud of what we do. And then about 2 years ago, the space opened up across the road. So that's my new function venue right now. It's got a beautiful walk-in cellar. And apparently that was when they were escorting prisoners to the jail and horse and carriage. They'd stop at the inn over the road, lock prisoners down below, and it's got a lot of history, this town. It's one of the last standing examples of a pure Georgian village in Australia, I believe. The pub down the road, the oldest licensed pub in Australia, and Berrima's set on a sandstone slab, so that's why a lot of the sandstone buildings are around. And I keep meeting people that tell me stories all the time, and it's really fascinating. I'm not a historian, but I'm slowly becoming one because of the amazing stories I hear. This time of year in the Southern Highlands, you sit around the fire and you have duck and potatoes, and that's why we decided to go with the potatoes today. It's a classic sort of potato dish called Pommes Anna. So it's very thinly sliced potatoes, just baked with some very simple garlic and butter and fresh thyme, and everyone likes buttery, crispy potatoes. I don't generally use a lot of these sort of appliances, but this thing is amazing. It's I took it home last night and we banged up this recipe, and it's amazing how quickly it peels potatoes, slices potatoes. So let's give the old Breville Kitchen Wizz a go. Now we're going to use this potato peeler attachment. Pretty funky little design. We're using these little sort of Dutch creams, and they're from Robertson, about 20 minutes away. Very simple to do. And I can tell when it's peeled. I just watch the peelings come up from the bottom here. When the bottom starts to go a bit brown, chances are all the peelings have come off. There you have it, done. Check these little babies out. Peeled. How good is that? We're going to move on to the slicing attachment. Once again, put the spindle in the middle. This is the piece you need to put all the attachments on. This has got a variable slicer on it. This has got a 0 setting for storage, so you don't cut your fingers. Now with this, we're going to slice them pretty thin. I'm going to go to about a 0.3 to 0.5 of a centimetre. And there's a 2-sized funnel on here. I'm going to take the small piece out and use the larger one to pop these potatoes in. Watch how quick this is. Done. 6 potatoes sliced. What was that? 15 seconds, if that. Unbelievable. Super thin, super consistent, super fast. Excellent. So let's go to the next stage. We're going to do a very simple sort of infusion of local butter and beautiful fresh garlic. Now that's going to go into our butter along with some beautiful fresh thyme. Try and remove some of the bigger stalkier bits. We're going to take this pan, we're going to pop it on the stove, infuse these flavours just for about 2 minutes. Be careful not to burn the butter. And then we're going to brush it on the potatoes, and then we'll start lining our moulds from there. We're going to throw these in a mixing bowl right now. The beauty of this dish is we leave the starch on the potatoes. We don't wash the potatoes after we cut them. What that does, it keeps the cake nice and sort of structured, and keeps its form beautifully. Let that infuse for a little bit. Get your hands dirty, feel it. That's what food and laughter and music is all about. All right, so we're going to let that sit just for a few minutes. I'll go and prepare the moulds ready for baking. We use a little muffin tin. That keeps the potatoes all nice and neat and packaged. We've got parchment paper. That goes on the bottom. We've got a little bit of fresh thyme, 2 sprigs per portion. Always safer to put a little bit of butter around the edges just so it doesn't stick. And then it's just a case of arranging them. Obviously, I'll try and use the smaller pieces first and just try and overlap them. So when you pull it out of the mould, it's got a beautiful sort of cascading effect around the top. I'm using a convection oven. If you don't have a convection, that's fine. But convection oven, about 175 degrees Celsius for about 25-30 minutes. Take the foil off. You can see they've all cooked through. Get a small knife and just make sure it's nice and soft in the middle. Now, you have to turn it out onto a tray. I suggest a tray with a little lip. Very simple to do. Put this down, put the second tray on top, put our hand underneath, and one quick motion, flip it over, which we've done. And then fingers crossed, she's gonna come out. Let's have a look. Oh, beautiful. We're serving this with our local Duck Confit, which has been salted and cured for 3 hours and then cooked in its own juices for another 3 hours. Baby heirloom carrots and turnips from our garden, a little sort of parsnip puree to go underneath. Let's put it together, really simple. Put the puree down first. This is a little jus that we use. It's just basically roasted duck bones, red wine, veggies. These are like baby fennel leaves, rocket flowers, calendula flowers. Pop that on there just for a bit of colour, bit of crunch. And then we have it, the end result. Cheers, enjoy your lunch.